Congratulations, girl, Tiffany squealed sharply to her best friend, Madison. We finally graduated. I can't believe it, we actually made it. Madison hugged her back tightly, her eyes brimming with tears. I know. I didn't think this day would ever come. So, Tiffany asked curiously, what's your plan now? Are you staying here in the city, or are you jumping straight into work? I think I'll go home for a bit, Madison replied with a soft smile. I want to rest and, more importantly, take my diploma to my parents' graves. I want to show them I did it. I'm coming with you, Tiffany said quickly, so I can visit your mom and dad before I start working here in the city too. Can you believe it? Tiffany added cheerfully. We're graduates now and you even passed your board exam. Madison smiled at her friend's joy. She was deeply grateful to her parents. Because of their savings, she'd been able to finish her studies, even though they had both passed away before she graduated. Growing up in a small rural town, her parents had worked themselves to the bone, doing whatever it took so she could have an education. Come on, Madison, let's celebrate, Tiffany urged excitedly. Tonight? Madison asked in disbelief. Why not? It's been ages since we went out just to have fun. Besides, your outfit is way too good to waste. You look gorgeous. Tiffany winked, obviously buttering her up. Madison laughed at the teasing, then finally nodded. Tiffany, grinning from ear to ear, grabbed her hand and pulled her out of the university grounds. They headed to the same club they used to frequent. Hours later, Madison couldn't deny she was already tipsy from the cocktails she'd been drinking. While Tiffany was busy dancing, Madison decided to take a break. Sitting at their table, she sipped her drink and watched her best friend enjoying herself. With her striking beauty, Madison drew plenty of attention from men around the club. Several gathered the courage to approach and ask her to dance, but she turned them all down. None of them caught her interest. Sighing at the persistent flattery from strangers, she noticed her glass was empty and went to the bar to order another drink. While waiting, she realized a man across the counter was staring at her. His intense gaze made her blush, so she deliberately turned away and looked toward Tiffany on the dance floor. Because of this, Madison didn't notice another man slip something into her drink. If I were you, I'd get a new drink, the man who'd been watching her said, his voice confident, almost cocky. Madison stiffened at the sound of his voice. Of all the men she had met tonight, this one gave her the strangest feeling. And who wouldn't feel something when the guy in front of you was undeniably handsome? And what business is it of yours? She asked sharply. The man only shrugged. His smug expression annoyed her. Name's Blake, he said casually. And you are? Madison rolled her eyes. You think I can't handle this kind of drink? She teased, then promptly lifted her glass to take a sip. Blake's eyes widened. He reached out and knocked the glass from her hands, spilling most of it onto her clothes. What is wrong with you? She snapped, hurriedly trying to wipe the alcohol from her shirt. I told you should change your drink. Blake handed her a handkerchief. Madison snatched it from him and stalked off to the ladies' room. She couldn't understand what this Blake guy's problem was. While in the restroom, furiously trying to dry her clothes, she suddenly felt her body heat up unnaturally. What is this? She muttered, her voice trembling. The warmth grew more intense. Blake's warning replayed in her mind, and she understood someone had drugged her drink. Panicked, Madison hurried out of the club. Meanwhile, Blake noticed how long she'd been gone and grew concerned. Normally, he didn't care about random women, but there was something about Madison that had caught his attention. He'd actually come to the club tonight because of her. When she still hadn't returned to her table, he left to find her. Outside, he spotted the same man who had spiked her drink, following her as she stumbled down the sidewalk, her face flushed and her steps unsteady. Get in the car, Blake barked, loud enough for the man behind her to hear. He also shot the man a warning glare. Madison recognized Blake, but hesitated to get in until she saw the dangerous guy following her. Without another thought, she climbed into Blake's car. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice shaky. Blake kept his eyes on the road. "Where do you live? I'll take you home before you lose all control." Madison gave him her address in a faint voice, but within seconds she was gripping his arm. "Please," she begged. Blake's hands tightened on the steering wheel, unsure if her plea was from the drug's effects or something deeper. He opened his mouth to speak, but she leaned in and kissed him. Her lips were desperate, almost hungry. Blake kissed her back for a moment before reality hit him. Gently, he pushed her away. "I'm taking you home," he said firmly. "You'll regret this when the drug wears off." But when she touched his leg and whispered, "Take me home, with you," his restraint snapped. Within minutes they were in his high-rise condo. As soon as they stepped inside, Madison kissed him again, this time even more passionately. Clothes fell away. Blake's hands roamed her body as hers clung to him. That night, neither of them thought about anything else, only about each other. When Madison woke up the next morning, Blake was nowhere in sight. Her eyes widened when she realized she wasn't in her own bed. "She got away," Blake muttered with a smirk from his kitchen, realizing she had left. Meanwhile, Madison sat at Tiffany's apartment kitchen table, her head resting in her arms. Tiffany walked in, startled. "Jesus, Maddie, you scared me. I thought some stranger had broken in." Madison slowly lifted her head. Tiffany frowned when she saw her friend still wearing the same clothes from last night. "Wait, you didn't go home?" Tiffany asked in disbelief. Madison scowled and nodded. "What happened? What did you do when you were drunk?" Tiffany pressed, sliding into the chair beside her. Madison told her everything. Tiffany gasped several times during the story. "Well, thank God that guy was there. Why didn't you call me? I thought you went home alone, completely hammered." Tiffany grinned. "Don't you dare grin at me," Madison warned. "What? So, you're not a pure as snow Southern belle anymore. You're officially a grown woman now," Tiffany teased, trying not to laugh. "Cut it out, Tiffany. I'm serious. I don't know what to do." Madison groaned. "Why do you sound like you regret what happened with a guy you barely know?" Tiffany started, but Madison clapped her hand over her friend's mouth. "Shut up!" Madison's face flushed bright red at the memory of Blake. "You remember. You actually remember what happened?" Tiffany's voice rose in disbelief. Then she burst out laughing. "I do not," Madison stammered, avoiding her friend's eyes. Tiffany laughed until tears rolled down her cheeks. "You done? You happy now?" Madison asked sharply. Tiffany nodded, still smiling as she wiped her eyes. Later that day, Madison stayed over at Tiffany's place. The next morning, she returned to her own apartment to pack. A few days later, the two friends traveled back to their hometown in the countryside. Madison had been waiting to get her diploma before making the trip. "I can't wait to see your folks," Tiffany said warmly. "They're going to miss you so much if you don't stop by after visiting the cemetery." "Of course I'll come by. I've missed your mom's cooking," Madison replied with a smile. Their drive was quiet. Once home, Madison went straight to her parents' graves. Tears filled her eyes as she placed her diploma down. "Mom, Dad, here's the result of all your hard work. I passed my licensing exam and I've graduated," she whispered, her voice breaking. "It's been so hard since you left. I miss you both so much." After collecting herself, Madison went to Tiffany's family home for dinner. Weeks passed. Madison began working as a doctor at the small local hospital, but soon she started feeling unusually tired and dizzy. "You okay?" Tiffany asked one afternoon. "Just weak, like I'm coming down with something," Madison admitted. That's because you're not eating enough. Come over for my mom's cooking. You need to keep your strength up, Tiffany said. The truth was, Madison had been eating more than usual lately. In fact, she'd been hungrier than ever. Tiffany was glad to see her eating well, but the dizziness persisted. Madison realized she often felt nauseated in the mornings. She froze when it hit her. She was late, 2 weeks late. Frantically, she grabbed her phone and checked her calendar. "What's wrong?" Tiffany asked, noticing her panic. "I'm 2 weeks late," Madison said nervously. Tiffany gasped. "Don't tell me." Seeing Madison's pale face, Tiffany grew just as anxious. She ran to the store to buy pregnancy tests. Madison took them into the bathroom, her hands shaking. The first was positive. She tried again. Positive. The third positive. "I can't believe this," Madison whispered. Tiffany hugged her tightly. "It's going to be okay." "I'm not ready, Tiffany," Madison cried. "I didn't mean for this to happen. I don't even know if I can be a mother. I just graduated." "You'll be fine. You're a good person. You'll be a great mom. And you have me and my parents to help. Plus, I know your parents are looking out for you," Tiffany said seriously. 5 years later, Madison was raising triplets, 2 boys and a girl. Life had been hard, but with Tiffany and her parents' support, she'd managed. "Ethan, Mason, Katie," Madison called from outside her house. "Your mum's calling you, come on, let's go," Tiffany said, a little out of breath. She hadn't gone to her market stall that day, so she could spend time with her godchildren. "Aunt Tiff, come inside with us," Ethan said happily, pulling on her hand while Mason grabbed the other. Madison ran ahead toward the house. "You're all sweaty," Madison laughed when the kids reached her. "Girl, they have way too much energy. I can't keep up," Tiffany complained. "You lasted the whole afternoon. I was ready to quit in under an hour," Madison teased. Tiffany sat down, watching Madison smile at the triplets. Later that evening, while the kids played in their room, Tiffany helped Madison clear the dinner table. "Don't you think about introducing the kids to their father?" Tiffany asked seriously. "I don't really know him," Madison said quietly. "But if we cross paths again, I wouldn't keep them from him, especially since sometimes the kids ask about a dad. You know, Katie looks exactly like you. But the boys, not at all. Makes me curious about their dad. He must be handsome, judging by Ethan and Mason," Tiffany said with a smile. Madison gave her a small, forced smile. In truth, the boys looked exactly like Blake. Even years later, she could still remember his face clearly. She prayed that if they ever met again, and she told him about the children, he would accept them wholeheartedly. As the years went on, the kids turned 7. Raising them became more expensive, and Madison's small-town hospital salary wasn't enough. "You've been looking deep in thought lately," Tiffany said, eyeing her. Madison chuckled softly. "What's with the beer?" she asked, noticing Tiffany carrying a 6-pack in a grocery bag. "You've been so tense the past few days. I figured we'd have a heart-to-heart," Tiffany replied with a grin, handing her a bottle. Madison smiled faintly. She was grateful every day for her friend. "So, what's the problem?" Tiffany asked, raising an eyebrow. "I can't manage on my hospital pay anymore, especially now that the kids are starting school. I've been thinking of going back to the city to find a hospital job there," Madison said seriously. "Then do it. What's stopping you?" Tiffany asked. "I'm afraid I can't handle it alone. I'd be far from your parents." Madison's voice dropped, the uncertainty clear. "I'll come with you," Tiffany said with a smile. Madison's eyes widened. Tiffany just shrugged. "My dad's medication is getting expensive, and my mom and little brother can take care of the stall. I'll feel better knowing we're all together." Madison hugged her tightly. "Let's do it together, for our families." Both women packed the next day. Tiffany's parents played with the kids non-stop before they left. "Mum, are we going to live in the city for a long time?" Ethan asked curiously. "Are we going to school there?" Mason added excitedly. "I'm fine anywhere as long as I'm with you, Mum," Katie said, pouting slightly. Madison was amused by how different the triplets' personalities were, yet they were all sweet-natured. "I'm not sure how long we'll be there, but yes, you'll be going to school there for now," she told them. Ethan looked sad, Mason couldn't hide his excitement, and Katie smiled softly. "I'm going to miss Grandma and Grandpa," Ethan said. "We'll visit during vacations, and you can video call Aunt Tiff every day," Mason reminded him with a grin. Madison contacted her old landlord to see if she could rent her old apartment again, but it was already taken. Fortunately, Tiffany found out her former apartment was available. Early in the morning, Madison, the kids, and Tiffany set out for the city. The kids were thrilled by the tall buildings outside the bus window. "This place is amazing," Mason said, eyes wide. "Don't cry, Ethan. We'll see Grandma and Grandpa again," Katie reassured her twin. "I'm just scared we'll get lost. There are so many people," Ethan admitted. "I won't let anything happen to you, especially your mum," Tiffany said, hugging him. Madison stayed quiet, feeling her own nerves about this new chapter. The countryside had always been calmer. She couldn't help wondering about Blake, where he was now, whether he had a family, and whether he would accept the kids if they met again. When they arrived at Tiffany's apartment, Madison was surprised at how little it had changed. "Where are you applying?" Tiffany asked as they began unpacking. "The closest hospital to your place. You?" Madison asked. "No idea yet, but I'll check out everything I can find," Tiffany replied. They agreed Madison would job hunt first, while Tiffany stayed with the kids until school started. Then Tiffany would look for work. "Not coming with us tonight, man?" Blake's friend asked with a cocky grin. "I'm not interested," Blake replied curtly as his friend tried to convince him to join a blind date. "Don't tell me you're still hung up on that one-night stand girl," Ricky said in disbelief. Blake just sighed, focusing back on his work. "If you never got over her, why didn't you just try to find her?" Ricky pressed, raising an eyebrow. "You think I didn't try?" Blake shot back, irritated. When Ricky finally left, Blake leaned back in his chair. It had been years, but he still couldn't forget Madison. All it took was closing his eyes, and he could see her clearly, the woman who had been stuck in his mind from the moment they met. Months had passed without a trace of her. He had even obtained security footage from the club owner, hoping to track her down, but the search had gone nowhere. Meanwhile, Madison applied to every hospital she could find in the city. After a week, none of the places that had interviewed her had called back, despite saying they would. "No luck?" Tiffany asked gently when she saw Madison looking discouraged. "None. Finding a hospital job here is harder than I thought," Madison admitted. "I'll try again tomorrow, but if I still can't get in, I'll look for other work." Weeks passed with no success. Then one day, an email arrived from one of the hospitals she had applied to. Madison's eyes went wide as she read it. She had passed the screening and was being called in for a final interview. "What happened? What's going on?" Tiffany asked, alarmed by Madison's gasp. "Look," Madison said excitedly, showing her the email. Tiffany squealed and jumped with her, the two of them celebrating. When the interview day came, Madison was surprised to be offered the job on the spot. She thanked her new boss through tears, unable to hide her joy. Later, she returned home, looking somber. Tiffany hugged her, ready to comfort her. "Don't worry, someone will hire you too," Tiffany said softly. "Babe, I got hired. I'm a doctor at one of the biggest hospitals here," Madison shouted suddenly. Tiffany's shock quickly turned to excitement, and she hugged Madison tightly. "I'm so proud of you." A few months later, Madison had settled into her new role at the hospital. The triplets, Ethan, Mason, and Katie, had started school, and Tiffany had landed a job as a manager at a 5-star hotel. Madison worked the night shift. Each morning, after her shift ended, she would take care of the kids and walk with Tiffany to drop them off, before going to bed. In the afternoons, she picked them up, got them ready for the evening, and left for work while Tiffany stayed with them overnight. One day, Tiffany came home from work to find Madison still in her pajamas. "No shift today?" Tiffany asked, surprised. "It's my day off. Why do you have alcohol? Something wrong?" Madison asked cautiously. "Just some trouble at work. Nothing major," Tiffany said with a small, sad smile. "Want to talk about it?" Madison offered. Tiffany shook her head. "No, I've got it handled. Let's just relax." Madison wanted to press but decided not to. She prayed Tiffany's problems would pass. The next day at the hospital, Madison chatted with a co-worker. "Don't you feel like days off fly by?" she complained. "Totally," her colleague laughed. Across town, Blake had overslept from working too late. He rushed to get ready for a meeting. "Sir, the board members have been informed, and there's no problem so far," his secretary reported over the phone. "Good. Keep me updated, I'm on my way," Blake said, driving quickly. Moments later, his phone rang again. Reaching for it, he dropped it under the seat. In his hurry to retrieve it, he lost control of the steering wheel and crashed. "Doctor, we have an emergency car accident victim," a nurse called out. Madison hurried to the ER, her eyes widening in shock when she recognized the blood-covered patient. It was Blake. Taking a deep breath, she pushed down her emotions and focused on saving him. "Doctor, do you know the patient?" a nurse asked curiously. "Yes," Madison answered quickly, offering no more explanation. She was simply relieved when the surgery was over and Blake's condition stabilized. Madison quietly stepped into Blake's hospital room, watching him sleep. "I never thought we'd meet again like this," she murmured sadly. A week later, Blake began to stir. Pain radiated through his body, but he soon drifted back into unconsciousness. Madison checked his vitals, relieved that he was no longer in critical condition. She didn't know why, but she took it upon herself to oversee his care. Part of her was happy he had woken up, yet fear gnawed at her about how he might react to seeing her. When Blake finally opened his eyes again, Madison was at his bedside. He froze, staring at her. The years of searching, the countless times he'd imagined this moment she was right there. "I must be dreaming," Blake said weakly. "How do you feel?" Madison asked with a small smile. Her voice seemed to jolt him fully awake. He tried to sit up but winced in pain. "Don't move. You'll reopen your wounds," she warned, rushing to steady him. "Blake," he said, introducing himself despite his condition. Madison smiled faintly. "Even now you're introducing yourself? Didn't I tell you my name before?" she teased. "Madison," he repeated softly, as if savoring the sound. She laughed lightly at how intently he was staring at her. "I didn't think you'd remember me." "The woman who got away," Blake said seriously, though with a hint of a smile. Their eyes locked, and Madison felt her heart race under the intensity of his gaze. The moment was broken when her phone rang. She quickly looked away. "Get some rest. I need to check on other patients," she said hurriedly. As she turned to leave, Blake caught her hand. "Will you come back?" he asked gently. For reasons she couldn't explain, Madison nodded, despite knowing she wouldn't be able to return until her shift ended. Later that evening, Madison arrived home to find her children rushing toward her. "Mom, dinner's ready, Aunt Tiff cooked," Ethan said, proudly taking her bag. "I set your plate, Mom," Mason added with a smile. Madison looked at them warmly, grateful for their thoughtfulness. While the kids got changed, Tiffany walked over. "You seem troubled. What's wrong?" she asked. Madison lowered her voice. "Tiff, Blake is my patient." Tiffany's eyes widened. "Blake the kid's father?" she whispered. Madison nodded, her expression heavy. "So, what's your plan? Are you going to tell him?" Tiffany asked. "I don't know. At first I wanted to, but when I saw him again I froze. I'm scared. What if he tries to take them away from me? I couldn't handle that," Madison admitted. "Then don't push yourself before you're ready. When the time comes, you'll tell him," Tiffany said, reassuringly. Madison felt lighter hearing her friend's words. "When I'm ready, I'll tell him. When he's healthier, I'll tell him about the kids," she thought firmly. The next day, she entered Blake's room. "How are you feeling?" she asked with a smile. "Better. I can move around now. My head still hurts, but the rest is okay," Blake said cheerfully. She examined his bandages, then took a deep breath. "When the head dressing comes off, I have something I need to tell you." "Going to confess something to me?" he teased. Blushing, she shook her head. "There's just someone I want you to meet," she said softly. Blake's curiosity piqued. "When will this bandage come off? Can't it be today?" "Another week or two, depending on how well you heal," she answered seriously. Blake nodded, wondering who she meant. His mind briefly went to the possibility of her introducing him to a husband, and he quickly shook the thought away. "I'm not letting her slip away again," he told himself. A week later, Madison was relieved to see Blake's head injury had healed enough for the bandage to be removed, but the thought of introducing the kids made her nervous. During that week, she and Blake had spoken often, growing more comfortable with each other. They had learned more about one another in just days than they had during their one night together, years ago. "When will I get to meet the person you mentioned?" Blake asked, raising an eyebrow. "They're busy right now. Maybe after my next day off," Madison replied, her voice a little shaky. Blake's eyes widened slightly. "They? As in, more than one?" "Yes, there are 3. Madison admitted quickly before changing the subject. When her shift ended, she went home to her kids. It was her day off the next day, and since the triplets didn't have school, she decided to take them out. "Really, Mum? We're going out?" Mason asked excitedly. "Can we get toys?" Ethan asked hopefully. "I just want to eat somewhere nice," Katie added with a smile. "Fine today. We'll do everything you want," Madison laughed. After a short rest, they went out. First was Ethan's choice lunch at his favorite place. Then they visited a toy store where Madison bought each child something they liked. Their last stop was the playground. While the kids played, Madison noticed their eyes drifting toward other children playing with their fathers. "Mom, does Dad not want us?" Ethan asked sadly. "What makes you say that? Your dad loves you. He's just been sick and couldn't visit," Madison said gently, forcing a smile. "Will he visit when he's better?" Katie asked through tears. Madison's chest tightened. She hated lying, but she still wasn't ready to tell Blake. "Do you want to visit your dad?" she asked softly. The kid's eyes lit up. "Even if he's sick, he won't be mad?" Mason asked. "Of course not. He'll be happy to see you," Madison reassured them. The next day, she brought them to the hospital. "Stay with Aunt Tiff for a bit. I'll talk to Dad first," she said, giving Tiffany a look. Tiffany nodded, keeping the kids close. When Madison stepped into Blake's room, he smiled. "You're early today. Missing me already?" he teased. "Do you remember how I said I had someone to introduce to you?" Madison asked nervously. "They're here?" Blake asked, his smile brightening. She nodded, hesitated for a moment, then took a deep breath. "I never thought we'd see each other again. But since we have, I don't want to keep them from you anymore. Blake, that one night we spent together, it resulted in children." Blake's eyes widened. "What?" "I got pregnant that night," she admitted quietly, avoiding his gaze. You mean, we have a child? He asked in disbelief. Madison nodded. 3 Ethan, Mason, and Katie. They're triplets. Blake's jaw dropped, speechless. Madison didn't wait for his reply. She stepped out to call the kids in. They peeked in shyly, clinging to her. Blake looked at them, and they looked back, as if memorizing each other's faces. I have children, Blake thought to himself, tears stinging his eyes. He stood carefully, despite Madison moving to help. Instead, he knelt down so he could be at eye level with them. Hi, he said softly. The kids' eyes welled with tears as they held hands. Madison gently nudged them forward. Hello, I'm Ethan. I'm the oldest, Ethan said shyly. I'm Mason. I'm next, Mason added, glancing at Blake. And I'm Katie. I'm last, Katie said, peeking out from behind her brothers. Can I have a hug? Blake asked, his voice breaking. They ran into his arms, crying as they called him Dad, over and over. He held them close, not wanting to let go. After the kids calmed down, Blake still didn't let go of them. He sat on the edge of the bed, with all 3 close by. Dad, are you still sick? Katie asked, her voice full of concern. Mum said you couldn't come see us because you were sick, Mason added. Blake glanced at Madison, realizing why she had told them that. Madison offered him a small, uneasy smile, and he understood immediately it was to protect the kids from resentment toward him. When you're better, will you come home? Ethan asked. Before Madison could answer, she said quickly, It's getting late. Your dad needs to rest. He'll be visiting you a lot once he's well. The kids smiled widely at that, hugging Blake again before saying goodbye. Don't worry, Blake told them. We'll be seeing each other all the time from now on. Once I'm out of here, we'll be together more often. Your mom's been taking good care of me. The children beamed before leaving with Tiffany. Once the door closed, Blake turned to Madison. How old are they? They're 7, just started grade school, Madison replied. I can't wait to get out of here and spend real time with them, Blake said, lying back down carefully. Aren't you angry? Madison asked quietly. Blake smiled faintly. I can't be angry. We didn't know each other back then. But I'd be lying if I said I don't feel some regret. I missed years of their lives. Still, I'm proud of you for raising 3 smart, healthy, good kids on your own. Thank you for finally telling me, and for everything you've done for them. Madison felt her chest tighten at his words. Now that I'm here, you won't have to do this alone anymore. I'm in it for all of you, Blake said sincerely, pulling her into an embrace. Madison broke down, letting years of struggle and emotion pour out. Before his discharge, Blake spoke with Madison privately. I don't want to be away from you or the kids again. I'm not wasting another second without you in my life. I don't think I could handle being apart either, Madison admitted, though her voice was uncertain. Then come live with me separate rooms until you're ready to answer me, Blake said with a wink. Madison blushed and looked away. I'll need to talk to Tiffany first. If she's okay with it, then maybe. When Madison told the kids, Ethan said seriously, As long as I'm with both you and Dad, I'm fine. Nothing will change, just more family, Mason added. I want us all together, Katie said, pouting. Later, Tiffany told Madison, Why are you hesitating? You're both single, and it'll help you get to know him better. You're just scared you'll fall for him. Madison didn't answer, but in her heart, she knew it was true. Once Blake was discharged from the hospital, he immediately tried to find Madison's home, using the location she'd mentioned during one of their conversations. After walking around for a while without luck, he asked people in the area. Eventually, a child recognized the triplets as classmates and pointed him in the right direction. Blake's face lit up when he finally saw his children. He was about to approach when he overheard a group of kids confronting them. If you really have a dad, where is he? A girl asked mockingly. We don't care what you say. We have a dad, Katie shot back, frowning. Liar! You don't have a dad, a boy added. Ethan clenched his fists, but didn't lash out. Instead, he turned to his siblings. Let's go home and tell Dad to visit their house so they'll know we have a father, he said angrily. Blake smiled at his son's composure. Ethan, Mason, Katie, what are you doing out here? He called warmly. The triplets froze, staring at him in shock, as if unsure he was real. Aren't you going to hug your dad? Blake teased. They ran straight into his arms. Are you all better now? Mason asked. You're not going away again, right? Katie added with a pout. Are you sure you're not sick anymore? Ethan asked cautiously. I'm perfectly fine now, and I'm never leaving you again, Blake said, grinning. The kids happily pulled him toward their house, surprising both Madison and Tiffany when they walked in. I thought you weren't getting out until tomorrow, Madison said, wide-eyed. I'm fine, so I pushed for an early release, Blake replied with a grin. Tiffany eyed him without expression. Did you bring your things? Madison asked. They're in the car, he said happily. Oh, no need for that, Tiffany cut in with a smile. The kids can go to your place instead, with Madison. Madison stared at her, startled by the suggestion. Blake's face lit up. Really? That sounds great. Later, Tiffany pulled Madison aside. It's better for you all to live together. He'll be more comfortable, and you'll be able to build your relationship. What about you? Won't you come with us? Madison asked. I'll stay here to handle things for my family, Tiffany replied casually. What Madison didn't know was that Tiffany was sinking deeper into debt, drinking heavily, and quietly battling jealousy over Madison's improving life. While Tiffany understood her feelings were wrong, she began pushing her best friend further away. Madison was amazed by the new house where she and the kids would be living. The triplets were just as thrilled. They quickly warmed up to the household staff, who welcomed them warmly. Every morning, after Madison's night shift ended, the whole family would have breakfast together, before Blake took the kids to school and went to work. It felt in every way like a real family. Each night when Madison came home, she would find a flower and a simple note from Blake on her bed. Turns out my boss has a romantic side, one of the older housekeepers teased. Madison could only blush and smile faintly. Blake made his affection obvious every day, but Madison was still unsure of her feelings. She didn't know if it was love or simply attraction. Tiffany visited often, and the kids always looked forward to seeing her. Over time, Blake and Tiffany also became friendly, though Tiffany's hidden jealousy continued to grow. One afternoon, Tiffany stormed into the kitchen. That man is impossible, she complained to Madison. What now? Madison asked, laughing. He told me I look old in this outfit, Tiffany said, glaring in Blake's direction. Blake, why would you say that? Madison asked, still chuckling. Blake walked over and wrapped an arm around Madison's waist, pulling her close. She gasped at the sudden contact. Don't worry, from now on, I'll only tease you, he said with a grin, winking at her. Madison blushed furiously and pushed him away. Ugh, you two are disgusting, Tiffany joked, though a pang of longing hit her as she turned to leave. That night, as Madison and Blake crossed paths in the hallway, he stopped her. You're beautiful, especially when you laugh, he said softly. She looked away, flustered. You're too much. Not true. From the moment I first saw you, I couldn't take my eyes off you, Blake said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. His gaze dropped to her lips. Slowly, he leaned in, and she didn't pull away. Their lips met in a gentle kiss, deepening until the sound of small footsteps interrupted them. Are you two fighting? Ethan asked curiously. Is something wrong, Mom? Dad? Mason chimed in. Why'd you push Dad just now? Katie asked innocently. Madison froze. No, nothing's wrong. Your dad just lost his balance, she said quickly. Blake laughed, playing along. Guess I'm still a little clumsy. Come help me up. The kids rushed to assist, and Madison slipped away, muttering, You're impossible. Life in Blake's home gradually fell into a comfortable rhythm. Madison was able to pay off debts from the past, and her joy became more visible. Tiffany, on the other hand, struggled to find work and kept her troubles to herself, especially when she saw how happy Madison had become. One afternoon, Blake and Madison visited Tiffany's apartment to drop off some boxes. Sorry for bringing so much stuff, we'll only store it here for a few months, Blake said politely. Oh, it's fine, Tiffany replied with a faint smile. Though honestly, I've been feeling a little lonely lately. They spent some time chatting until Madison offered, Let me know when you're visiting your family back home so we can travel together. Tiffany glanced at Blake, then said, I'm going to run out and buy some snacks. As soon as Madison left the apartment, Blake turned to Tiffany. Do you mind if I move these boxes into the bedroom for now? Go ahead, I'm going to take a shower, Tiffany said quickly. She made sure Madison was gone before stepping into the bathroom and removing her clothes. A moment later, she called out loudly, Blake! Alarmed, Blake rushed to the door and knocked. What's wrong? Are you okay? She didn't answer. Concerned she might have slipped or hurt herself, he forced the door open only to find Tiffany standing there completely naked. What is this? Blake demanded, his brows furrowing. She stepped forward, grabbing his hand, but he yanked it back immediately. When she tried to kiss him, Blake pushed her away and stormed out of the bathroom. Tiffany quickly threw on a robe and followed him out, only to stop short when she saw Madison standing in the doorway with bags of snacks in her arms. Tiffany's smile faltered when she saw Madison's shocked expression, but Blake's face showed only anger and disgust toward Tiffany. Without saying a word, Blake ran after Madison, who had turned and walked away quickly. Tiffany stayed frozen in place, realizing Madison had just seen everything. Blake caught up to Madison just as she was hurriedly packing a bag at home. Madison, he called, breathless. She didn't answer, her quiet sobs the only sound in the room. He wrapped his arms around her from behind. I know what you're thinking, but please give me a chance to explain. It's not what it looked like. It was a huge misunderstanding. Madison shoved his arms away and turned to face him, eyes blazing. So after me, you move on to my best friend? No, Madison, nothing happened. I never planned any of this, not since the day I met you, Blake said firmly. Not then, not now, not ever. She shook her head, refusing to believe him. Why would I do something like that in a way you'd see? Does that make sense? He pleaded. I can't believe you, she said coldly. Tiffany would never... Please, just trust me. I would never destroy what we've started building, not after losing years with you and the kids, Blake said desperately. If you're telling the truth, then why would she do it? Madison asked, her voice breaking. I don't know. I was just as shocked as you, Blake admitted quietly. But she came at me after I opened the bathroom door because I thought she was hurt. For a week, Madison and Tiffany didn't speak. Madison couldn't stop replaying the scene in her head, and the idea of betrayal from her best friend was too painful to accept. Blake, meanwhile, didn't stop showing his care for Madison, constantly reminding her of his feelings. One evening, he found her on the terrace, wrapped in a jacket. You're deep in thought, he said softly, draping another jacket over her shoulders. It's Tiffany. I miss her so much, Madison admitted. When you're ready, maybe talking to her will help you understand what really happened, Blake suggested gently. I'm not ready to accept it, Blake. Not yet. Madison said, her voice low. Madison's phone rang, showing her younger brother's number. She answered quickly, only to hear his urgent voice. "We can't reach Tiffany. It's been days, and Dad's in the hospital. The doctors won't operate unless we can pay up front." Madison's heart pounded. "How's Dad?" "Is Tiffany with him?" she asked anxiously. "No, we can't find her." Madison ended the call and immediately transferred the money she had been saving for the kids' birthday party. Blake, hearing the conversation, asked, "What happened?" "I have to find Tiffany," Madison said, grabbing her coat. "I'm coming with you," Blake replied without hesitation. They arrived at Tiffany's apartment to find her lying on the floor, unconscious, with blood on her head. Blake rushed to her side, patting her face, but she didn't respond. "Go to the car and open the door," he told Madison urgently. She ran outside, tears streaming down her face. "No, please, not like this, Tiff," Madison whispered as they carried her into the hospital. When they reached the ER, Madison demanded, "Why aren't you taking her to surgery?" "There's no available surgeon at the moment," a nurse explained calmly. "Then I'll do it," Madison insisted. "Doctor, you're not stable enough to perform surgery yourself," another nurse reminded her. "Then at least let me give her first aid until someone's available," Madison said firmly. Hours later, a doctor informed her, "She's stable." There was an alcohol overdose, and it looks like she fell and hit her head. Small glass fragments were found in the wound. Relief washed over Madison. Tiffany remained unconscious for 2 days. During that time, Madison stayed at her side, while Blake helped care for both her family and Madison's children. When Tiffany finally woke up, she broke down crying, confessing everything: her mounting debts, her jealousy, and how it had driven her to try to take Blake away in a moment of confusion and envy. "I'm so sorry, Maddie. I was wrong. I don't even love him. I was just jealous that he made you so happy," Tiffany sobbed. Madison said nothing, simply hugging her tightly. 2 weeks later, Tiffany met Madison at a cafe to talk. "Thank you for helping with Dad's medical bills," Tiffany said sincerely. "You and Blake, I'm grateful to you both." Madison reached across the table, taking her hand. "Why don't you just come to the house? The kids miss you." Tiffany shook her head. "I don't think I can. If I see those bright little eyes again, I might lose my nerve." Madison frowned in confusion. "Because of your reaction, I'm guessing Blake hasn't told you," Tiffany continued. "He promised me he'd wait until the right time. He offered me a job in Canada, working as a secretary for one of his closest friends in their business. I leave tomorrow. Today I'm heading home to tell my family. Then I'll come back to prepare for the move." "That's fast," Madison said quietly. "It's for the best. You and Blake are perfect for each other. You're both good people." "I'll miss you, Maddie," Tiffany said, her voice catching. She apologized once more for everything that had happened, explaining that her actions had been the result of confusion and emotional turmoil. Madison hugged her tightly, congratulating her and wishing her well. She understood this was a chance for Tiffany to start fresh, and she was relieved to know Blake had stayed loyal through it all. Tiffany left for Canada, and Madison made a point to look after her friend's family back home. A year later, Madison and Blake were married. Not long after, Madison became pregnant again, this time with twins, a boy and a girl, Alex and May. By the time the twins turned 3, family vacations to Madison's hometown had become a tradition. They would visit her parents' graves and spend time with Tiffany's family, and Blake grew to appreciate the peaceful rhythm of country life. One afternoon, Madison noticed Blake putting on slow music in the living room. "What are you up to now?" she asked with a laugh. Blake smiled and walked over, pulling her into a dance. The triplets, Ethan, Mason, and Katie, watched from the couch, while playing with their younger siblings, Alex and May. "Dad, you're so stiff. You can't dance like that," Katie teased. "Relax your body, Dad," Ethan instructed, even demonstrating a goofy move to make everyone laugh. "You've got the same teasing streak as your father," Mason joked, and the whole family burst into laughter. Blake leaned toward Madison and whispered, "Good thing dancing wasn't my only plan tonight." She raised an eyebrow. "And what else is on your list?" "Since I've already taken care of everyone's passports, I was thinking our next vacation could be abroad," Blake said warmly. "Really? We're flying on a plane?" Ethan asked, eyes wide. "When?" Katie added excitedly. Blake grinned, but didn't give an exact answer. The next day, Madison discovered they were leaving immediately. At the airport, she hesitated, checking her mental list for anything she might have forgotten. "Relax. If you forgot something, I'll buy it for you," Blake reassured her. Hours later, they landed in Canada. Blake had arranged the trip so Madison could see Tiffany again, knowing they thought about each other often. After checking in at the hotel, they took the kids out to explore. "There's someone I want you to meet," Blake told Madison. "My business partner, Tony. He's also a very close friend." Tony greeted them warmly, shaking Madison's hand. Blake chuckled when he saw her curious expression. Before she could ask more, a familiar voice called out her name. Madison turned, her eyes widening when she saw Tiffany, now pregnant. She started toward her, but Tony quickly stepped in to support his wife. Madison realizing with surprise that Tiffany was married to him. Madison smiled, memories flooding back of Tiffany's younger days before life had tested them both. The two women hugged tightly, tears in their eyes. "I can't believe you're married. My parents told me, but wow, it's real," Madison said happily. "How are they? I miss them so much." "They miss you too," Tiffany replied, "and soon we'll be back in the States for good." Just then, the triplets spotted her. "Aunt Tiff!" they shouted, running to hug her. Tiffany knelt to embrace them, tears streaming down her cheeks. They spent the day catching up, joined by Blake, Tony, and all the kids. Tiffany was overjoyed to learn Madison had added twins to the family. That evening, after everyone had gone to bed, Madison and Blake sat together in their hotel room. Madison kissed him lightly on the cheek. "Thank you. We needed this trip." "Thank you," Blake replied, pulling her close. "I'm grateful every day that you're the one God gave me for the kids, for our home, for everything. You're an amazing mother and wife." She smiled, leaning into his embrace. "And you're an amazing father and husband. I'm thankful too." Blake's voice softened. "For you and our children, I'll do anything." When they returned home, life fell into a peaceful rhythm. The kids thrived, family time was treasured, and their faith remained at the center of their home. Madison often reflected on everything they had gone through, the struggles, the misunderstandings, the years apart. In the end, it all led to this: a loving family, a strong marriage, and the knowledge that no matter what challenges came, they would face them together. And so ended the love story of Madison and Blake. The end. Thank you for the watching. This is Mr. Hope. Please subscribe and comment.